If you're in your car, you already got your seatbelt buckled, but if you're not in your car, buckle your seatbelt.
Oh, man. Let's just start it with the air horn.
I'm gonna meddle.
You're gonna poke us in the brain.
I'm
gonna
poke you somewhere. I don't know. I may get some hate mail from this one. But Josh, I mean, you're a young parent.
Yeah.
Yeah. How old are your kids?
Young, yes. I mean, my oldest has turned 17, so 17, 15, and 13.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, you are at the
I don't
apex.
feel young anymore.
Yeah, and plus the stress.
Old.
No wonder 3 teenagers under one roof. Oh my goodness.
Yep. Thoughts and prayers. I've taken all the thoughts and prayers.
That's right. Send them your direction. My kids are all raised. I've got 5 grandkids. Yeah. There are a lot of times when a moment of temptation comes for me to offer grandparental advice. To my children on rearing their kids.
Grandparents are never giving advice.
Yeah, well, I try very hard not to. I'll do it once, and then I need to shut up. I think that's an important rule. I raised my kids. I didn't do it perfectly. No one's more aware of my imperfections than my actual children.
Then you next, probably.
Yeah. I play and in fact, I'm a worse critic to me than they are. They're very gracious with some of the stuff I put them through. But the reality is age does give perspective.
Yeah.
I'm now being able to see, some 3 to 4 iterations or generations of parenting philosophy as it is evolved. Growing up in the 60s and 70s was a lot different than growing up in the 20s and 30s is going to be, or the teens and 20s. So much has changed. And so much of it is so different that, you can't do it the same way. Yeah. At the same time, I think there's some fundamental biblical principles, philosophical issues, and just some common sense issues that we seem to have left behind that I think we do so at our risk. So the topic that we're going to discuss for a couple of episodes here is family idols.
Family idols.
Family idols. Things that we are doing in our homes that I believe interferes with or hinders the spiritual growth of our children and the discipleship of our family. All right?
All right.
So
you're definitely not going to offend anybody.
Oh, not a person. And again, I just want to say this as we get started. You can take my advice in a $5 bill and go down to Starbucks and get a cup of coffee. Because a cup of coffee at Starbucks costs you $5, and my advice is worth nothing else. All right. However, I am old enough to have seen a few things. My training, and this is not meant to be arrogant, but my training is in education. So I've got 40 some odd years of working with kids at various levels from infancy through graduate school. I have literally worked, taught, led schools at that level for all my adult life, apart from my role as a pastor. So I've seen some stuff, I read some stuff, and I did some stuff, both good and bad, that I just want to use to, once again, provoke some thought. You may disagree, but I dare you to talk about it, and I dare you to think about it, all right? So here's the first one, and I'm going to call it the idol of busyness. The idol of busyness. So, by the way, my name is Dan. I'm one of the teaching pastors at Life Fellowship in suburban Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm joined today with Josh Brahm, who is the founder and president of Equal Rights Institute and our producer. But Josh, I had breakfast 20 years ago, probably 20, about 20 years ago, with Charles Stanley. Charles Stanley was, he was the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Atlanta.
Just a small.
Yeah,
humble brag.
Yeah, really. He probably never thought about it again after he walked away from breakfast, and I'm still talking about it.
I know how this feels. I've had this breakfast too, but
that's
really cool.
He said something to me that, and I don't think this was original to him. He didn't pretend that it was or act like it was, but he said something to me that one of those remarks that somebody says to you that's like, it's stuck in my brain.
What was it?
And it was this. He said, if Satan can't make you bad, he will make you busy.
Yeah.
And, that is probably, if you want to write something on my gravestone that's my biggest failure, that would probably be it.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a physiological, spiritual, maybe even every ickle you can come up with, propensity to be busy. I just can't sit still.
Yeah.
Even if I'm sitting still, I'm on my phone, I'm on my computer, I'm reading a book while I'm always doing two things at once.
So why? I'm the same way, but why?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I need a leather couch and a good counselor. I really do.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even drive. Well, I plan my phone call. I plan my time in my car from the time I leave here to the time I get home. I need to make these 3 phone calls. And Wednesdays, I call my mom. I mean, literally down to that level of minutia. It's not healthy. But here's why I say that in regard to families, because the endless pursuit of activities and sports and packed schedules and making sure our kids don't miss out, that they get to experience everything, ends up crowding out important things because we make the other things a matter of urgency. So when the important is crowded out by the urgent, it will cost us in terms of things like rest. It'll cost us in terms of conversation, worship, intentional training, intentional discipleship. I wonder how many kids have never missed a ball practice, but don't know how to check the oil of their car.
Oh, I don't know how to check the oil of my car.
I
can pull the dipstick thing out if that's what you mean, but I couldn't change it.
Could you change it? Yeah.
No,
I wonder how many kids could quote most of the NFL rules or rules for basketball, or name you every major player in the NBA,
or maybe every Star Wars character,
every Star Wars character.
Pokemon
Yeah. If they're not athletically inclined,
Trekkie.
But they probably couldn't name 5 of the 10 commandments. They couldn't name the patriarchs, the first 4 generations of Israel, or anything like. They couldn't do it. And part of that is because there's only so much time to teach. So what we do is we teach what we feel is profitable or important. And in doing so, we find that we don't have time for things like going to church, for praying together, for serving together. I wonder how our culture might be different today as it relates to just our overall mentality, to things like to people groups like immigrants, to people groups like the homeless, to people groups like the addicted. If we had taken some time with our children, and instead of reducing them to a one-dimensional something or other we see on a Facebook reel or an Instagram reel, and which is probably tilted based on how our algorithms are going, whether we see them sympathetically or unsympathetically. But if we actually went down to a rescue center, or a rescue mission, or where we actually went to a homeless shelter, or we actually went to a feeding center, or where we actually volunteered at a place where the addicted are, or simply just taking sandwiches and care bags to a bridge where people live.
There's a friend of mine. I told this story, I think, at least one other time on this podcast, but like really quick, like it's just like one of my biggest donors, and also has spent so much of his time in his life, his post-retired life, helping immigrants who are just trying to figure out how to live in America, how to learn the language, how to get a driver's license, or learn how to operate microwaves. Like, he's not just hanging out in his house, which he totally could be. Very comfortable, nice house. He could be fine for the rest of his life, but that's not what he's doing. He's out being uncomfortable, helping people like in a massive way.
Yeah. One of my dearest friends who retired from the ministry 10 years ago, he was on my staff when I was in Florida. Every week he goes down to an immigrant center and he works with Afghani Muslims.
Nice.
And he's teaching them English and how to fill out job applications and so forth.
That's awesome.
And he's changing how they view Christians.
Oh, I bet. And
again,
I bet they're changing the way that he views Muslims and
he's
Afghanis.
he no longer views them as towel head wearing, think of all the pejorative terms,
Right.
bomb vest wearing, whatever.
Right.
He sees them as human beings who just want to raise their kids up and so forth. And they are integrating the culture. And I just want to add this. This is not part of it, but I just have to add this editorial report.
Yeah.
Could we please stop thinking of all immigrants as if they are illegally here in this country?
Thank you.
Yeah, we really need to, and I'm for people keeping laws. Please don't misunderstand me. I also understand that circumstances are different based on different circumstances. And so we have to realize that not every person, even here who's illegally, is here because they're trying to start a drug gang.
Right.
Yeah, so
They're
maybe
not all in MS-13.
they're not all MS-13. There are some, and those people need to go home or they need to go to jail.
Sure.
But when we flatten everybody to a caricature, and that's true of Christians, and it's true of immigrants, and it's true of liberals, and it's true of conservatives, when we flatten everybody to one dimension, that ought to be a sign to us that we need to spend more time learning, getting to know, engaging with personally. How are we supposed to be ambassadors and missionaries for truth if we're not engaging? Yeah. And that's a great thing. I think we teach our children. So I had a friend who their kids were just spoiled rotten brats, quite frankly, demanding, I want this, I don't want that, I'm not going to eat this. And so he told me, he said, one year we decided to go serve at a feeding shelter on Thanksgiving morning. So we got them out of bed. Nobody got to watch the parades.
I'm semi-tempted to do that.
Yeah, and they just went down there and they put on plastic gloves and they served people. Now I've actually told that story and I've had people viscerally respond to me with things like, yeah, a bunch of drug addicts or a bunch of or whatever, or like they probably went to 3 different feeding centers that day. Probably ate better that day than any. So what?
Out
I eat better
of the
that
heart. The mouth speaks.
I eat better on that day. I eat 3 times on that day myself. Okay, so but he said for his kids that not only did it change their perspective, but it became something they wanted to do every year.
That's huge.
Yeah, it became
shocking.
It became a way to get out of themselves and to see and to be blessed for what they have. And then they just ate their dinner later. They ate it at 4:00, not at 1:00.
And I bet they didn't complain as much.
No, he said it transformed them.
Like cleaning up afterward
Yeah,
or whatever.
Yeah, and they learned to work as a team, and they learned to serve others, and they let somebody else go ahead of them, and all kinds of good things.
Appreciate what they have, hopefully.
Yeah. So I believe the idleness or the idol of busyness is something that needs to be examined. When every weekend is filled with tournaments and trips and stuff that never gives voice to worship. It never gives time for instruction from spiritual things. I mean, the concept of Sabbath, and by the way, Saturdays are great days to do all those fun, weird, wacky, self-centered things. But could we not have one day, as God said? I mean, if God said this is important enough for me to do it, maybe it ought to be important enough for us to do it, to take a day and get off the busy train.
So speaking of the trips, and this will go well into your next point, but I was at the barber. This is literally the last thing I was before I came here. And I was listening to this conversation between these guys, the multiple barbers, about their kids' baseball tournaments that they're in, and he's got different all of his teams are in these baseball things. Yet his buddy's like, yeah, but are they like traveling around and doing all this stuff? And he's like, no, we're not doing all that's crazy. And eventually he finds out there are 6-year-olds in baseball leagues travel around to do different states, to do out-of-state games. And it's just like, what are we doing? Like, come on.
And the sad thing, too, is I think there's now a generational thing where dads today, moms today, are wanting to do that because they look back and they remember, hey, I remember we stayed in a hotel, and I remember when we got to eat the breakfast, and I went away, and all these cool friends and getting on a bus and so on. Because that's your context. But let me ask you this. Was that the best context for you? Or if your dad had said, we're going camping, if your mom had said, we're going to do we're going to learn a new skill, we're going to learn a new project, if the family had piled in the car and gone to Grandfather Mountain or gone to, the Creeper Trail and rode bikes together, that would be their core memories, and that's what they'd be wanting to do with their kids. So don't just assume because you liked it as a kid that it was the best choice for your family. Because if you grew up and church was if we don't have anything better to do, then, what one generation does in commonality, the next generation will do in excess. So don't be surprised if it's common for you to miss church, that your kids will grow up and never go to church. So we have to make sure that we understand that even how we spend our idle time, or how we spend our free time, or how we spend our extra time is a portion of training. And by the way, that could also include taking your kids out in the yard and raking leaves together. It could be, burning a pile of brush if you have some acreage. It could be teaching them how to change the oil in their car. It's something as simple as that. So that's one. And this next one does overlap, but it is the idol of the success of your children.
Yeah.
The idol of children's success. Elevating a child's academic or athletic or some other talent that they may have, or their social achievements above spiritual formation, I believe is an idol. Yep. And I want to call it for what it is. I this is where I'm getting in trouble.
Okay, here we go. Send your emails.
I absolutely despise the child modeling, the child beauty pageant industry.
Oh, it's really
and I know people who think that's it and know what their kids, and they doll their little 6-year-old, 8-year-old, 10-year-old girl, and want them to strut up and down. First of all, the industry is so intrinsically corrupt; it is irredeemable. It is literally built on the sexualization to sell of fashion. Yeah. I mean, it really is. I could go on a huge rant on that, but
don't girls especially have to deal with body image problems enough just going through life as a girl, as a woman? Why are we training them to already be thinking about how they look and their makeup and their eyelashes and all that stuff at 6 or 7? Come on.
Yeah. Remember Honey Boo Boo? Do you remember Honey Boo Boo on the Learning Channel?
I knew that it was a thing. I was so disgusted. Yeah. I remember seeing pictures, thumbnails, and articles. I never watched it.
It was the equivalent of watching a dumpster fire and finding amusement in it. But the sad thing is, these people are living in mobile homes and sacrificing all kinds of stuff so they could have 10 seconds worth of feeling pretty, or 20 seconds worth of getting a sash and a trophy that eventually would get thrown in a dumpster somewhere. And at the same time, the kids were growing up thinking that was the real world. Yeah. And all those people today are very, very broken people that were on that show. Very, very broken. And yet they made a career and a time of infamy in their life. I don't think they made the money. I think they wasted the money because we were all willing to gawk at it too. That's a whole other thing that I think we're going to be accountable for. But you say, well, isn't it important my kids make good grades? I would say yes and no. I would say it's more important that your kids work hard than to make good grades. Yeah. And by work hard, I do mean academically. Are they getting their homework in on time? But not every kid learns the same way. Not every kid tests the same way. And again, my 3 college degrees in education right here. Right. And I just want you to say the educational system is for the 60% of kids that don't live in the margins. And it is mass production. And so it's like eating canned peas or canned corn. It'll keep you alive, but it won't let you flourish. And because it is literally an assembly line approach to education, which is why I believe in educational choice so much, because every kid learns different. Every parent should have the opportunity and the resources to be able to do what's best for their child. But with that in mind, whether it is their skill on a ball field or a ball court, whether it is their ability to, it was really interesting to me. I hope this doesn't come across racist. If it does, forgive me. But I was watching a newscast last night about a young man who won one of the biggest piano competitions in the world. Oh, nice. And they had 13 finalists, I think it was, and 11 of them were Asian.
Oh, yeah. See, as someone who grew up doing piano recitals, piano concerts, I am well aware. Yeah. Those kids practice way better than we do.
Why?
They're just disciplined.
But why do they do that?
I think culturally, I think their parents hold them to a higher standard, but and it could be, it could sometimes go too far the other way, right? Like there are kids where it's they're practicing 6-7 hours a day. This is the only thing that they're being brought up to do. That's too much too. But Oh yeah, like most of us white kids in Northern California,
we're having it.
couldn't touch like the technique,
Well, and actually, it is a cultural
counterparts.
thing. So I've got a very good friend who's Vietnamese, and he's like family, and he tries to understand my cultural context. And he's never been to America. I tried to understand his. One of the things he tells me, he goes, is that culturally, even though his family doesn't adhere to this, culturally, the Asian culture in that part of the world is that you raise your children to take care of you in your old age.
Yes.
If your kids are not successful, you'll not be taken care of in your old age. So it turns it into almost an industry where you've got kids in Japan who commit suicide because they don't get into a university. You have parents sitting with flip-flops behind their kids, smacking them on the head if they miss a note on the piano. I mean, literally, this is what happens. Now, you say, oh, well, that's Asian culture and that's foreign to us and we don't do things that way in the West. I disagree.
Oh, yeah, we do.
I think we have, I mean, I've been at ball fields where parents are screaming at their kids because, they weren't paying attention or they didn't do something along that line. And so I would simply say this, you know what? You can improve talent, but you can't create talent. In terms of, I can sing all day long, but I'm never going to be an opera singer. It's never going to happen.
Right.
But you know what I can create and I can spend a lifetime improving is my character. And character is always more important than talent because you can have talent and no character and go nowhere. Yeah. Or you can have less talent and a lot of character and go anywhere. And so if we had as a focus the development of our child's character over the development of the other things that the world tells us that leads to wealth or fame, then it might help us be better parents. That's where I'm going on that. Let me give one more, and then we'll hit this next episode. It's the idol of comfort. The idol of comfort. So the pursuit of convenience and ease and minimal commitment in every area of life, including our faith, including our walk with God, has become an idol where it can be everything from this. I'm not a good parent unless my child has the best of. I'm not a good parent. I'm not a good provider unless I'm able to give my child a new car when they turn 16 or when they graduate from high school. I'm not a good parent unless my child is able to see the world, to get a 4-year private education, to be able to study abroad during a year of college. I'm not a good parent unless every child under my roof has their own bedroom. In fact, I won't have so many children that they don't all get their own room. I don't want my child to have to work their way through high school or college. I don't want them to have a job. I want to be able to enjoy their youth. These are things that we are saying to our generation actively right now. And I know parents, in fact, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday where they got a part-time job and their parents had them quit their job and gave them the money to get what they had gotten the job behind their parents' back to order to purchase, and said, I'll just give you the money for it. I don't want other people thinking that I can't take care of you and making you work to get your job. Now, by this person's testimony, they said, that developed a pattern in my life so that when I graduated from college, I was content living at home without a job because I always just assumed my parents would take care of me until a crisis forced him out of his parents' home and where he had to get a job. And it has been very, very difficult for him to get into the routine of being a breadwinner.
He got thrown right into the deep end.
He did. His parents, by the way, are some of the most wonderful people I've ever met.
Yeah, I'm sure we're very well-meaning.
Well-meaning, absolutely. Wanted to protect their kid. You know what?
There are well-meaning parents who thought the best way to teach their kids to swim was to throw them into the deep end too.
Yep. I got thrown in the deep end, not by my parents, but by other people who were well-meaning, and I almost drowned. Yeah, absolutely. So these, whether we're talking about busyness, trying to have it all, or whether we're talking about success, trying to be it all, or we're talking about comfort, trying to avoid anything inconvenient, uncomfortable, or painful, these can become idols that will prevent our kids from fully developing in their dependence upon God, in their knowledge of His Word, in their development of character, in the principles of reasonable adult living. And we're going to talk about this more in our next episode, but I hope I haven't made you so mad that you just shut down. I do hope that you won't do this. Yeah, I know somebody who needs to listen to this.
Let me text you.
Yeah. I want you to say, what did I need to hear from this? Whether you're a parent or a grandparent, or whether you're a parent to be someday, think about what are going to be the priorities, the values, and what is going to be your intentional plan to not succumb to these idols, because they're everywhere we turn. And we've got to be very, very careful.
Here's a big challenge. Listen to it with your spouse.
Yes.
And have a conversation with your spouse about it.
And then go ahead and have a marriage counseling session scheduled.
Yes, definitely. Right after that, because you're gonna be feeling the pain.
Yeah, there's gonna be a little conflict. But you know what? Conflict is good.
It is.
It's good if you conduct it correctly.
Yeah.
So I hope you'll understand my spirit, my heart in sharing this with you. I hope also that you will let us know what you think by talking to us at LifeTalks@LifeCharlotte.com. Anytime you want to get a hold of us, send us an email there. But we appreciate you listening. Share us with others. And as always, thanks for listening to us here at Life Talks.